let's roll. Co-pilot on the passenger side, be so fly. Yeah, she so lit, we so high. Just me and my chick, yeah. Just me and my chick, yeah. Co-pilot on the passenger side, be so fly. Yeah, she so lit, we so high. Just me and my chick, yeah. Just me and my chick, yeah. She give me a bit of her love. Yo, what up, y'all? Welcome to another one, man. It's your boy Rod One, and I'm here right now on the world's biggest platform. And y'all know what I do each and every week, man. I talk to some of the world's most interesting people. And tonight, I'm going to do the same thing. So before we get into that and I bring up my guests, right, y'all know what I do, man. I got to tell everybody that downloads the audio version of this platform, thank you. I have to. That's just the vibe. That's every week. I have to make sure that first off, when I start the show, that I give thanks to the people that's driving in the trucks, right? The people that is on them trains going home or commuting back and forth, or the people that's in their cars and they moving the way they moving across countries and different things like that. And I mean specifically across countries because we have so many different people that be, rocking with your boy, that be downloading the audio version. Remember, I just had, people on from Russia 2 weeks ago. So it's crazy how that works. You know what I'm saying? Especially in the climate that we're in, with everything that's going on with war and so many other things. But it's all love. We're going to talk about a little bit of things, right? Because I have a guest tonight, so I'm not going to be able to do a whole lot, right? But we are going to chop it up a little bit. Y'all know I'm going to give y'all my rant, and that's just how we do, all right? But before we do that, let me give my shout-outs because it's only right. So for those of you guys that have been pushing play on all of the content that I have been producing, thank y'all so much, yo. Word up. Today, dropped earlier. Ooblifter Part 23 did drop today. Thank you all for the early views and shares and comments and likes so far. And I definitely appreciate all of the support that y'all been giving me throughout all the other content that I've been pushing. And I appreciate that. And then let me just say this real quick too, before I get into the rest of my stuff. I know a lot of y'all been asking me, am I going to do another Kill No One? Yes, I am. We are going to do Kill No One Part 3. We are going to be filming coming up after we do We Don't Wait, We Create. So after we do the We Don't Wait, We Create event in April, then we're going to get into production and we're going to shoot the Kill No One Part 3, and it's going to be fly. And that's what we do, man. We keep pushing. So outside of that, let's do this. All right. So for those of you guys out there that want to participate in We Don't Wait, We Create, and that will be happening in Raleigh, North Carolina, Saturday, April the 18th. And the people that we looking for to be in the building, if you're a model, you're an actor or actress, if you're a clothing designer, script or concept writer, brand ambassador, director, videographer, booking or casting agent, or in the event that you have products and you want to team up with other people who are actually working to help push your products. Because a lot of times, we have people who have, I'm going to say their assets, right? That's what I say, right? So, like I said, whether they have a clothing line or whether you're an author, you got books, or whether you have, a skincare line, like whatever it is that you feel like that you want to market and you push, or something that's a part of your vision or a part of your purpose. What I'm saying to you is that linking up with people who are constantly online each and every day, like the content creators, that's the way you move your stuff around. And for those of you that are models, think about it. I know the photographers love to have y'all in front of them cameras, and they love to tell y'all they want to build their portfolio, and they have y'all doing all these different things. But at the end of the day, what is it that you're selling? Are you selling your body, or are you selling what's on your body? Because technically, when it comes down to you getting these big contracts for any of these brands, they're looking for what you look like with their brand, not so much whether they're concerned about how good you look. When it come down to that, right? So what I'm saying to y'all is that for those of y'all that are, it's so dope for you to go ahead and link with a clothing brand or with clothing lines or whatever, however that go, and you guys collaborate and work together. Now, photographers need to work with, see, this is the way that I feel like it's a lot of things missing in certain industries because people are too busy trying to get paid instead of making money. I don't understand. Why would y'all allow somebody to pay y'all 100 when you can make 1,000? It's crazy to me. right? Everybody is for sale. You shouldn't be for sale, yo. It shouldn't be that easy to put a number on something. Like if your value is that value, if you can create and collaborate with other people who see value, you guys should be wanting to monetize. Right? You guys should be on social media trying to figure out how to monetize, not just be on there just to be on there, but find out how to generate some income coming in. And the more people work together, the more comments, likes, shares, and conversations that you have on said content is how you're going to get to that bag. It doesn't take a million people for you to get some money. It just take activity and for people to really believe in what you're doing. My thing is that when it comes down to it, too many people are too busy into their own self, right? They in their own way. And I know a lot of y'all have heard that saying a lot of times in life. Like a lot of times you be in your own way. Some people feel like they're so good that they don't need other people. And I'm telling you, no matter how good you are, you need other people. We talked about this last week. It's not about the player, it's about the team. Yes, the player is the person that people either blame or they praise. But when it comes down to the win, it takes the team. I'm telling y'all, man, better figure it out. Stop finding ways to be separate. But anyway, for those of y'all that need to get down, y'all know the vibe, man. All y'all got to do is hit the collectiveevents.net and then go ahead and RSVP to be in the building, right? And we could get to it. That's all. You know, we not gatekeeping around here. We not playing. I'm just letting y'all know. We don't wait. We create. Period. We're not waiting on nobody to tell you that you're good enough. We're not waiting on nobody to tell you if you okay. We're not letting nobody tell you that they validate you in order for you to know exactly who and what you are. We're not waiting on that, yo. Word is bond. Like if you got things that you have to go, that's cool. But what I'm saying to y'all is that when it comes down to your vision and your dream, not your dream, but your visions, it's on you. It's not on nobody else. Nobody else is coming to save y'all. I bet. So for those of you guys that are in this mindset, right? We've been talking about a lot of things that's going on. Now, y'all know this whole healthcare thing has been running rampant, right? Everybody's been upset about healthcare. But what I don't see is the same energy that people are not putting into being healthy. Now, I get it, right? People feel like whenever it comes down to whatever they're dealing with, it's a miracle drug out there that's just going to cure, well, not even cure it. It's just going to help it because we already know that nothing that they take in the medical industry for people who are prescribed certain things, it don't cure whatever you're dealing with. It just help you deal with whatever you're dealing with. A lot of times, that's what the reason why you're dealing with stuff, right? But for the most part, I don't really hear people talking about wanting to get healthy and wanting to get off of that. Because what I'm saying to y'all, there are people who have health insurance, but you rarely see them in doctors' offices. You rarely see them in situations where surgeries have to take place. And I'm saying if you pay attention, it's because they pay attention to their health. That's the number one thing that I don't see that the energy is behind. I see the energy is behind people wanting to get cheaper medicine, cheaper ways to hurt yourself more versus finding ways to help get yourself off of or deal with the things that you're dealing to get rid of it. So listen, this is what we're talking about. For a lot of people that don't understand, most of the major things that you deal with in your body that come down to illnesses and sicknesses be parasites. Right. So what I want to let y'all know is that you've been talking about the chemtrails and everything else that's been going on. There's a link in the description. I want y'all to click it if you guys are dealing with any type of things. And what I want y'all to do is I want you to go look up and find out what heavy metals and microplastics and stuff like that do to your body, right? And then come back and check the link. Also, we know that a lot of people are dealing with parasites. They don't know that. But for those of you that do the research, find out things that are going on, check your symptoms out. And if you can attach it to anything that has to deal with a parasite, then we got it for y'all. Y'all click the link in the description, get y'all more information. But regardless of that, just look it up. Check yourself out. You know how you feel, right? You don't need nobody to tell you how you feel. You know how you feel. And then, use your smartphone to be smart. You use it to gossip. Use it to be smart. Word. All right, bet. Y'all know I got a guest, so I'm not going to do my Did You Know segment tonight. So we're going to go straight into the rant because we in war right now, so to speak, right? And this is the thing. I get a lot of inbox messages throughout different platforms because we on all the platforms, right? And at the end of the day, people ask, are you going to talk about the war? You're going to condemn your president and all these other things like that. And I'm trying to figure out, like, whenever people come to me and ask me about sides being picked, that is weird. To me, I don't understand, because check this out. What we do know is that whenever things go on the bigger stage, people look to hurt the people on the small stage, right? So listen, you got all that stuff going on over there in Iran and everything like that, right? And then you got people over here who are upset at what's going on over there, so they're taking it out on people that are here, right? People that are from other countries that pay their money, that go through all of these different situations and scenarios just to become citizens, and then get upset about something that go on in another country where they, and then they come here and hurt the people here. My thing is that, why did you come here? You know what I'm saying? Like, you could have went where you love and what you love, and then you would be in that space. Why would you come here and hurt innocent people? And I understand, like, going on with this war that's going on there are innocent people or people that's being hurt by this. Right. Outside of that, I understand that. We all know that the news has been showing and telling us all these different things, propaganda, whatever. But the one thing that I think as human beings, we should never all be okay with innocent women, children, or men, regardless. We can't exclude men, but just people just being executed and wiped out just because of the way somebody else feels. Like, I don't understand why we got to pick, like in order for you to be a human being, you got to pick a political party. That's crazy. And with midterms being today as well, too. Right. And then this whole thing with Venezuela, the whole thing that's going on with Russia and Ukraine, everything that's going on. Now they done bombed the oil reserves over in other places. Like, Iran is just like going around. Like, so people are talking about it's going to affect us over here, right? Of the gas prices and all these other things is really about to be affected, right? Because of the way things are going down outside. And I just want to get to a point where we all can just see behind the veil and not walk around here just letting them allow them to just use our emotions against us and put us in positions where we against each other. Because whether we know it or not, whether you want to be a person that's against another person because how they look, skin color, height, and all that other corny shit that people do, I'm telling you, at the end of the day, if y'all don't see what's going on, we gonna have to stick together. Because we don't make these rules. We not the ones that's outside doing whatever is going on out here. And I understand people got certain pride for whatever you got pride for. That's all love. Do you be you? What I'm saying, it ain't gonna matter. Like, it didn't matter to them people that was in that nightclub when my man came out there and started shooting. He didn't care. He didn't go through and check people's. He didn't go in there and be like, yo, who you like, what you don't. He did not. He just went in and did what he did based on how he felt. And that's corny, because at the end of the day, he didn't have to be here if he gonna be upset about what over here does. Could have went somewhere else. I'm not saying that he couldn't be here. Obviously, he was already here. But the fact that he did that to people that's here, I'm saying to all of y'all that are here, we don't got nothing to do. We can't control what the people on the outside do, but we can control how we treat each other. And what I'm saying to y'all is that find a way to pay attention and understand that we're going to have to work together. We're going to have to find a way to see past our minute differences and pay attention. If there are things that are going on that are affecting prices, then maybe they need to be more adults in a situation, right? Maybe that one single parent, you can stop bragging about that, because right now you be a single parent right now, you one meal away from being outside in the lawn with the people who ain't got no job and you got one and you work 40 hours. I'm saying to you, even the people that are in 2-parent households, listen, you on the cusp too. Gotta find ways, man. You gotta pay attention. You gotta add value. You gotta do more. You gotta add more. You gotta be more. You can't stay the same. If people are doing more, a lot of times when they look bad outside, it's really not. It's just the way that the universe is trying to get us back on track. Sometimes you gotta look back at where you've been to know where you gotta go. But other than that, let me get through. That's my rant for the day. We're going to get into, I'm about to bring my guests up. Let me check out the comments, because we got comments so far, right? Let's see what's going on. Okay, Boxer TV Demon. Hey, what's going on over there? All right, Box? Real I appreciate you for checking in. Barb, what's up, yo? Definitely. I appreciate that. For real. Always. In other countries treat to heal the patient, the US does not. And we know that. But at the end of the day, that's why I'm saying my energy, I don't understand why the energy of people is not saying, like, yo, it's time for us to change. Like, we got to change it. If we already know certain things, why are we allowing it to keep going on? It's weird. And then when we have our own powers to be able to do the things to change ourselves, like, we can't wait for nobody else to save us. We gotta say ourselves. Yo, all right. So let me see. Musa Sabidi, what up? I hope I said that right. If I didn't, my bad, yo. Word up. I ain't mean it. I was trying to read it as fast as I could. You know what I'm saying? My bad. Yikes. I don't want to pronounce your joint wrong, but just if it ain't, I apologize for real. I bet. So listen, I got to bring my guest up because we got to talk because my guest is an author. Y'all know I've been having a series of authors on recently. So I'm just telling y'all, man, sometimes when you in your purpose, things line up. Telling y'all, man. Hold on for a second. Let me bring my guest up real quick. Hello, hello.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for being on the program this evening. I really appreciate you for joining in, tapping in, and wanting to share your story with the people. So, look, before we do that, let's do this. Would you mind introducing yourself to the audience and then letting them know why you're on the platform this evening?
Absolutely. I'm the author of the Dismemberer's Handbook series. I'm also the upcoming podcast host of In Bed with the Boogeyman. So I came onto the show because I felt like I had a story to tell. I think everybody has a backstory. That's why we go out and try to create, right? And I think that
Thanks.
things that I've learned throughout my life, having survived abuse and moving on to becoming successful, I think that, you know, you should be sharing your story with the world and helping to inspire
Facts.
others to do the best that they can as well.
Facts. And I believe in that. And I think that's the main reason why, well, not think, I know that's the purpose of my platform, right? Is to allow people to come up here and have a conversation with me. Hopefully that sparks a conversation within them and in their personal surroundings, right? Because whenever me and you first connected and we was booking and you was telling me about your books and, In Bed with the Boogeyman, I'm just like, just the title alone, right? It just will put anybody in the mindset of saying, okay, well, listen, we got to figure out what this means because there's so many people who looked at a person that they were laying next to as that. And I understand the boogeyman may be, uh, I guess, direct, like a man, right? So with me being a man is cool. Like I've never been one that take anything that's being said about a man personal. You know what I mean? Because that's the first thing that we should never do because we're not, because we share similar likes doesn't mean that we are alike, right? So
Sure, of
let's
course.
talk a little bit about your background, right? All right. So before we get into the books, let's say tell the people a little bit about, you know, what you kind of went through in order that pushed you into wanting to write your thoughts down and share with people. Because so many people go through things and they're embarrassed.
Of course. I've always been a writer in the sense that I even journaled as a kid and a teenager. So, um, I experienced childhood abuse as the result of an older sister who is almost 20 years older than me, but she was um, a psychopath, to put it lightly. But she hated me since the moment I was born, and I endured, like, significant psychological abuse throughout my, childhood, and to the point where I eventually ran away from home. And that kind of just living in that environment that was so toxic and so, damaging, it led me into an abusive relationship soon after, and, I remember the catalyst to that relationship was the man said to me, "The world would be a better place if you committed suicide." And to me, I kinda crawled into my bed after that, and I was like, "How did I get here? Like, how did I get here?" And, thankfully, he did say what he said because it was the turning point for me that, this was the man I chose to love. This was the person who said he loved me. And how was I living with somebody that was talking to me in that manner? So I ended up leaving him, and it wasn't easy because he was terrifying. So I almost had to go into hiding for a while, and that was kind of the very beginning of the road of figuring out who the hell I was after all that, and what message I wanted to send to the world. And I wrote a memoir called You Taste Like Whiskey and Sunshine. And it, basically showcases not only what I went through in my life, but how I was able to find redemption and help others in the same path.
Right. And that's what I think most people miss in life when it come down to the lessons, right? Because most people take the L that's in their life and look at it as a loss versus a lesson. And I'm only saying that based on you made a powerful statement in the beginning. You was like, yo, this is the man that I chose to love. And when I speak on this platform a lot, I speak in that way whenever I talk towards women, right? Two women on the screen, because it's be in my rants and stuff like that. And I say, yo, listen, you can't blame yourself for what, you can't blame the person that you chose. You have to blame your choices, right?
Yes.
Because you have to be responsible for what you chose. And I say, listen, if you're going to lead, if you're going to connect with a man and his life and his position is to lead you, you have to know where he's going. That way, you can see if that's the place that you want to go as well, right? Nature is one thing that we're disconnected from, but if we paid attention to nature, then we will understand exactly how we can have harmony or harmonious relationships within ourselves. But we're so disconnected from nature that we don't pay attention. And so let's talk a little bit about this in the signs of the abusive relationship. So you had an older sibling that just one, is it just one older sibling or did you have more? Just one,
Oh,
and it was a
I have 3 siblings, they're all older, I was a baby.
you was a baby. But
Mhm.
you were terrorized by one of the older
Mhm.
siblings or all of them? One of them. And was
One
that
of
your
them,
sister or brother?
yeah, my sister.
Your
My
sister.
oldest She was the oldest in the household.
Gotcha. And so parents, so was she in charge most of the time because she was the oldest?
Well, my
Parents
mother
working,
was a
mom?
single mother, so when my mother
Mm,
wasn't with us, whether she
gotcha.
was working or out or whatever the case may be, my sister was in charge, and that
Gotcha.
was the unsafe environment that I was left in. And, of course, my mother had no idea what was going on, and even when I would try to voice myself, she would, sibling rivalry, like, it's not as serious as you think. She never quite understood that it was like living in a home with a monster in the closet, and you just never knew
Mm,
when it was gonna strike, you know what I mean?
yeah. And that's another thing too about why people are reluctant to tell their story. You get what I'm saying? For the fear of someone not believing them or
Yeah,
belittling it based on their perception, right? Because your mom being a single mom, your sister being the older, she probably used her for y'all as more of a responsibility babysitter thing so she can continue to live her life. Because in most situations when it come down to the woman, and this is not, picking on a gender, this is just what it's been said all the time, especially when they have children, is that women always say, well, I need a life too.
yes.
And in that model of saying I need a life too, they will not knowingly, but whenever they do figure it out, it doesn't matter at that point that they don't care what another person feel or go through. As long as you do what I need you to do, that's all that matter. Because I'm gonna go out here and do this because your dad or your whatever didn't. You get what I'm saying? Now we gotta take the suffer the blame from whatever she feels or the parent, the mom feels about the dad. So with that relationship, why did you think that your sibling relationship pushed you or allowed you to accept a abusive relationship when it came to a man?
Because I think as a child, you don't fully understand the dynamics of what's going on. I blamed myself entirely, and I couldn't figure out
Mm.
why my own sister didn't love me, why she was always mean to me. She favored my brother. You just couldn't figure out why this was even happening because I was a little kid. It's not like I did anything to her. So I think growing up in that kind of environment, you think there's something wrong with you, and that breaks down your self-esteem and your confidence, and then of course you're thrown out into the world as an adult, and if you're already broken, then you're easy prey for a man who knows how to manipulate someone who's broken.
Gotcha. Gotcha. And so the running away, was it a running away of a you permanently once you ran away, you just stayed away, or were you like a back and forth runaway type scenario?
No, when I ran. Like, I
Oh
just didn't feel
wow.
like my mother could protect me, and although she eventually realized, who my sister was, and eventually their whole dynamic and their relationship changed when she realized, like, she used to it almost like puzzle pieces eventually came together because people were coming out of the woodwork. Other families were like, "You know what? I saw certain things and I should have said something." And eventually all the pieces came together for my mother, and she even said, there was this one time where she was babysitting you and I went out and I came back and your arm was pulled out of your shoulder. And, upon questioning my sister, it was like there was no explanation to how my shoulder came displaced. And it almost like it took her a long time. And I think it was mainly because no one ever wants to believe that their child is doing something to another family member. I think it was hard for her to grasp that whole thing. And in the end she understood and supported me, but by then I was already gone.
Yeah. And that's what I was gonna say. At that point, it's a little too late. I think um, you know, it's a thin line between like I said before, that thing of just doing what you feel and selfishness, right? Because at that point, not paying attention. Once your shoulder got pulled out of socket, that's it. Like I'm on everything. Like, yo,
Yeah.
nah, y'all bugging. Ain't no way. Nobody ain't got no explanation for that. We shoulders just don't come out of socket. Somebody
Mm.
pulled, yanked, something happened. I'm not playing. That's it's just a little bit different. But what I will say is that the running away thing, I think we all experienced that growing up in a single parent household. That's another thing that all of us have in common. You get what I'm saying? Whenever you
Yeah.
are in a single parent household, most of the time when people had a conflict with that single parent, it's always been the mom, and everybody has ran away.
Yeah.
And so at what age did you run away?
17.
17. So were you still in high school or just coming out? Because I know 17,
I
18
was
is when
still
they
in high
coming out.
school, and I came close to failing out, but I managed to graduate, considering I wasn't at home and I was basically trying to figure it out on my own. And, at the time I worked at the YMCA as a events instructor, and, I wasn't making a lot of money. And, so I was probably, like you had said earlier in your talk there, on the verge of homelessness myself, but I still managed to
Yeah,
go to school and graduate.
yeah, it is. And so whatever you got through that, how are you now getting into the relationship part? Because we got to get into these books because yeah, the titles and we got comments already of people wanting to figure out, what I'm saying, what's going on with the book, especially the boogeyman in bed, right? Or in the bed with the boogeyman. So, with the abusive relationship, was that the only relationship that you were in that was like that? Because, sometimes it's like a little trickling effect. Like, it's just one person, and then the next person, then it gets worse. So was he the first person that did whatever they did to you in a negative way, or was it
No, I probably
multiple?
had, 2 solid relationships that I spent a great deal of time in. The one, that was the catalyst was the second one, and again, I think it was the wording that he used that made me think, like, this man wants me dead one way or the other. And I think it just shocked me to the core that it shocked me into sense almost. And I remember calling my friend and she's like, "You got to get out of that house. He's going to kill you." And I did. I just grabbed my purse and just left the house. And I literally went and stayed with my friend and kind of went into hiding because they always come looking for you. They can't just let you
Mm,
go. And so,
right,
yeah, it did take me a couple of rounds of trying to find, love in all the wrong places.
right. And so, is he the catalyst behind the books or one or the other? Like, what? Let's talk because I know. First of all, let's show the audience your books real quick because we got people on. Let's show the covers of your books real quick. So we want
Okay.
people
I
to.
have the Dismemberer's Handbook as well
Mm,
as the Blood Chronicles is book 2 in the series. So these are, crime thrillers, and they're always focused around serial killers.
mm,
So
yikes! And yikes!
I think,
Yeah.
I think that every person that's ever hurt me, somehow finds their way into my books, and I know a lot of people go to therapy. I just murder people in books. So, I think that's kind of how I moved into, I wrote my memoir, and to me, that the memoir changed my life in a way because I ended up getting offered, a radio host job to empower women. And that was powerful to me because it never occurred to me while I was writing my own story that other women would relate to it and start emailing me. And I ended up
Mm,
doing that for 9 years, before I
wow.
went off on my own and started publishing again. And it just to me, it was, um, redeeming to be able to help someone else in similar situations. And after
Right.
that was all done, I almost needed to cleanse and just so I went from nonfiction into fiction, which was why I started writing this. But I mean, I'm a huge true crime junkie. Um, I've probably watched every documentary on the planet. I love that stuff. So it was just kind of a natural fallback for me to go into that. But to me, I let my trauma out in these books. I've
Mm,
gone through a lot, and to me, I my characters come out in the stories that I tell, and it's all kind of based off of and it's not even the guys so much, it's my sister. Like, if there's a monster in
mm,
the story, she's usually the shadow behind it.
mm. And it's interesting that you say that because having an outlet, right? Is really important in life because so many people they will look at their gift, so to speak, and figure out if there's a monetary value attached to it. And if it's not, they don't feel like that's the gift, right? Because whenever you are releasing things that are inside of you, when you're getting it out, like I don't know, like even when people say you shouldn't talk to yourself, and I think that you should, because a lot of times when you hear your thoughts out loud, it will trigger you to be like, you know what, that's stupid. I should not even allow that. Just like whenever you said, homeboy said what he said to you, it triggered because even though he said it, it was a thought in his head. He put it in the atmosphere. You heard that, and then it was like, oh no. You saw the opposite of what it was meant to do, but it's because it was let out. Now, if he wouldn't have never said it and then just been doing little subtle things to lead into trying to actually do that to you, then you wouldn't have been able to position to make a difference or make a change, so to speak. But because it's put out there, you have an opportunity to make a difference or make a change. Same thing about people who hold these things inside of them. They have to find a way to release. Some people don't, and they resort to just releasing themselves versus releasing the trauma. And that's when they get into drugs, alcohol, and sex addiction and all these other things because they just want to escape reality versus just dealing with the trauma and letting that escape. They rather hold on to the trauma and then escape real life.
Absolutely.
And and so the fact that you took your trauma and you turned it from fiction and nonfiction, and I like the nonfiction version of it because although hopefully none of the people that you write about, hopefully they don't die like this in real life, so they won't come back and use your books.
Yeah, for real.
Right. You know what I'm saying? The fact that the violence or the energy that you felt towards these people and what they done, you took it and put that energy in another space. You know what I'm saying? And still was able to release that versus really acting it out. The fact that you're writing about serial killers is you really feel like you want to get rid of people. So the fact that you writing about it and not doing it is amazing. So I feel like most people watching tonight that will watch the playback, don't just look at your gifts or talents and attach it to money. Uh, Really think about it. Like this could be your therapy. You may not be able to find somebody that you could talk to who's going to relate to you, but your story will relate to other people, and then you'll find your tribe. Like you put out the memoir, people emailed you. Now you found out, oh man, other people went through it. I'm helping them, but you wouldn't have known that if you wouldn't have put your pen to paper
Right.
or your fingers, Twitter fingers. I don't know how you did it, but however that worked out, right? If you wouldn't have been, vulnerable enough to say, yo, I'm gonna get this out of me, you wouldn't have known that it was other people out here just like you,
Yes. Yeah,
right?
and I
And
mean,
so,
like, a lot of people will say to me, like, how, because I mean, I'm brutally honest in my memoir, like, it's all out there, and everyone's like, "How can you put yourself out there?" And, it's not easy. It's not easy to put your story out there. It's not easy to
yes,
showcase your pain and hope you don't get hurt again. But again, when I started getting emails, I was like, "This is literally why I was supposed to do this. This is if I
wow,
help one person, then I've done what I was supposed to do with the book."
facts. So, in bed with the boogeyman, let's talk about that.
In Bed with the Boogeyman is going to be, different episodes of just messed up chronicles. Now that can showcase, stories of abuse or things that people have experienced. It could be like what's going on in the world right now or anything. It's like if for whatever your version of the boogeyman is. I mean, you know what my version of the boogeyman is. So, I mean,
Right,
we're just
right.
gonna have different conversations about what it means to be in bed with the boogeyman, and that can mean a million different things.
Mm,
So we're just gonna have different conversations about messed up stuff in the world.
yeah, and I see that because I think the in the bed part, I think that part will drive a lot of people into that part because even if it's not technically literal, like who you're in a relationship with, it could be
Sure.
who you're in business with or your family. You get what
Exactly.
I'm saying? But it's
Mhm.
only gonna be things that deal with you that you deal with that are close to you.
Yes.
And so that's what the in the bed part to me, in bed part means to me. It's that based on somebody that's close to you. And we all know that whenever you have a purpose, the people that are used to deter you from that purpose are the people that are closest to you, right? Depending on how you react to the situation that you're going through. Either you accept the way people view you or you accept how you view yourself, which what you did. You didn't accept the way your sister saw you or your past relationships. You accepted who you are and you was able to move forward. Because so many women, they are in relationships with people who they fear.
Yes.
It's not that they love them, they fear them. So they don't leave, they don't run, they don't move.
Well,
So
statistically, they say that it takes 17 times before you leave an abusive partner. So imagine how many women stay there that long and endure whatever they endure, and it takes them 17 times before they walk out the door. I was lucky. He broke me to the point, like he said all the right things that got me out the door. Like you said earlier, had he not said that, I could still be there, being slowly
mm.
broken down. But he said exactly what I needed to get out of that door. And a lot of women never get out of that door.
I never heard of the 17 thing. What was so break that down a little bit. What is it? What is it that people say? Like it's a national
So
stat or
women,
something?
even if women leave, they go back.
Yeah.
And then they leave and then they go
Gotcha.
back and then they leave and they go back. And usually statistically, it takes 17 times leaving before you're actually left for good.
Wow.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and that's scary.
Hmm. Which is crazy because that will happen in only an abusive relationship. But if a man lose his money, she'll leave in a heartbeat.
Yeah, there are women like that,
You
absolutely.
get what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
it wouldn't even take that type of situation for a person to go back and forth with a person that hurts them. They
Mhm.
will leave a person if he loses his money, loses his job.
Yeah.
So that's why it's so, from the outside, whenever you have certain conversations, I know with men, like they look at the situation, they be like, oh man, that's her fault. What you mean? Why you gonna stay there? Why you gonna let him, in that particular sense? Because that's what we know. We know, like, yo, if you gonna stay with him for that, listen, Shorty left me just because I lost my job. Now I got this, I got
Right.
that now, but she bounced just because I ain't even beat up. Listen, I ain't never even had an argument with her, right? But that's the thing about how people, right, have this sense of security. In so many ways, women feel secure when there's money. And I hate to say this, but sometimes the more aggressive a man is, they feel security in that too. So a lot of times, it's the security aspect that drives the decisions of most women. Not all women, right? But in that particular sense. So that's why I say, being a person that is even kill in the middle, which I mean by a man is just having emotional intelligence. You're a rare person when it comes down to the male species because you understand, you know what I mean, that there's not a lot of men like that. A lot of men are raised by women. They are really emotional men out here. Like, I don't care. Some of the hardest men in the world that walk around with 1,038 tattoos are so emotional.
Yes. Yeah, there's a lot of good men out there. I'm definitely not part of the, idea that all men are bad, despite what I've gone through.
Well, I think, in so many aspects, we all have this thing about just wanting to be this is what it is. For those of us that have ran away at some point, I think we all suffer from separation anxiety in a certain way. And wanting to just people to accept you for who you are because you always find yourself asking, what's wrong with me?
Right.
Like, yo, what I do? I haven't done nothing to you. Like,
Yeah.
listen, literally, like, why you feel this way, yo? Like, word, like, is it my spirit? And then we find out for those people who are chosen, there are a lot of things that you will never get the explanation to because those people will never know because it's a spiritual thing. They spirit can't be in the same place with you because of how much or how elevated your spirit is. Now, most of us separate it. A lot of people separate the physical from the spiritual because for some reason, especially if they're religious, they separate that.
That's
and
so
and, and
true.
I don't and that's the thing that we should never do. Like when they say don't dim your light, that's your light. Your spirit is your light, like literally. And it'll tell you, and most of us will feel bad because the people that we love don't love us the same. But it's not us that they don't love. Their spirit can't stand to be in the space with that spirit that they can it's here. And for those of us, we know because you could walk into certain rooms and feel whether you're supposed to be there or not. Word.
Yeah, it's an
We
energy transfer, I find sometimes. I can walk in a room and I know who I'm not standing beside.
gotcha. Who you're not standing beside. So
Mhm.
let's break that. Like, where do you go? Because most people feel like they know who they. So when you say you're not standing beside, you saying you're not standing beside somebody like you or like minded, or what is that
Um,
in that towel?
I think that especially when you've gone through a level of trauma and you recognize, the monsters behind these traumas, you tend to be able to recognize them in another room. And
Facts.
I'm an empath, so like I feel like I'm extra sensitive when it comes to energy in a room. And so I've noticed literally there will be a certain man or even men that I just know they're not good.
Nah,
And I just
nah.
will avoid them and that sort of thing. And it works the same way with good men. I know who I feel safe with, and those are the men that I will typically gravitate towards because, I never had a whole lot of safety in my life. And when I find a man
Mm,
who just has even a basic connection with me where I feel good around that man, that's the men that I will spend my time with.
Facts. And I think that's very important because for most people, when I notice with women, they attract to their preferences and not their standard, right? So as long as a person meets their preferences, they will force themselves to attach to it because they fit the person that they envision themselves with versus the mentality or the spirit or the drive or the consistency of that said man, not just the way the physical attributes line up. Because I said this last week on the show when I was talking about, men are visual creatures, but a certain type of man, like if it's the man that you really want, he has options to physical features. What is not always there is who you are, like the person that makes you. Like, what is it that's going to attach that man to you? It's going to be you. He
Mhm.
will attract to you based on the way you look, yeah, but that's not going to keep him there,
No,
right? What's going
absolutely
to
not.
keep him
No.
there is you. Like, what
Mm.
makes you up? What makes you tick? What makes you move around? That's why it's so hard for women to understand the male species when it comes down to why he's in this position where multiple women attract to him and he's able to deal with it because it's hard for them to understand that and I don't and no matter how you explain it, it just doesn't sound right to them because they feel like that's not supposed to happen, and that's just not true because there are a bunch of men out here who are males but they're not men,
Yes.
and then there are a
That's
bunch
true.
of women out
That's
here,
very true.
right? There are women out here that are adults, but they still kids,
Yeah.
right? They still chasing the image.
Mhm. The cars, the whatever.
Or even themselves, right?
Mhm.
Because if you have a conversation with them and you say, "Yo, listen, yeah, I saw you. I follow your social media, and I know you like to show yourself a lot." They'll be like, "Oh, this person is insecure. Let me get away from you. That's a red flag." And they're saying, like, "No, no. What we're saying is that the person that you want, right? The man that you want, when he see that he not going to see you.
All
He's going to
over
see the
social media.
no. He's going to see the attention that you're looking for." Because you don't need this, like there's no need for you to it's no need, like literally, unless you're using it for content and to get money on social media, it's no need for you to always show the backside of yourself. Like it's no need for you to always show cleavage and stuff. It's no need for you to be in the middle of January talking about waiting on summer and you
Yeah.
showing bikini pics in the middle of the winter. Like there's no need for that. Like because whether you say it's just for you, it's your page and all that, the one that you want, that man with that personal mentality, he know what is behind that, right? And
Yeah.
even if you argue, they're not gonna argue with you. They'll never say it to you,
Yes.
right?
That's so true.
Right. So, what do you think when it came down to you actually making the choice? Like, what were the red flags that came up to you that allowed you to say, "All right, these are the decisions that I'm going to make"? Because most women stay. You said it takes 17 times. I ain't never even heard. That's crazy. So, what was the like? Because it had to be a mindset shift.
Mhm. Yeah, and I mean, a lot of it is controlling or manipulative behavior, but a lot of women don't necessarily recognize that. One thing that I realized as I was dating this man was, at first it was no big deal. We met, introduced to friends and family, his friends and family, everything's good. But after a while, this particular man will start isolating you from your friends and your family. And all of a sudden, he will
Mm.
make a big deal of, oh, you don't need to go out with your friends, or oh, you don't need to go to your parents' house, and or he has to be there with you at all times. And the goal behind that is, if he can isolate you from your friends and family, then you have nowhere to go when it comes time for him to start annihilating you in one way or the other. And if you feel like, well, I can't, I haven't talked to my friend in 3 months. How am I supposed to call her up and tell her I need some help? The goal is to keep him all to yourself. He wants you all to himself. He's not interested in sharing. And when he starts to see you petering out towards other people, you'll start to see an angrier side of him where he almost blames you for, well, are you abandoning me? Why are you leaving me here by myself? Oh, you don't want me with you? Are you trying to get other attention from somebody else? And it's just a way of him breaking you down to the point where you can never go anywhere. Now all of a sudden it's just you and him all the time, and that's exactly where he wants you.
Mm. So, in that sense, do you think that once a person starts to isolate you, that's the ultimate sign of physical abuse coming down the road, or do you think it's more of an insecurity for the man? Like once he starts showing insecurity, is that is that supposed to change the way you view him? Right? Because
I
when you
think
get
it
in
does,
relation,
honestly, it's a little bit of both. I think that most
mm,
abusive men are insecure individuals. I think
mm,
that, these men aren't confident men. They aren't strong men at the end of the day. I think that the reason why they try to break a woman down is because they're weak. These are weak men when it comes,
mm,
if you ever see one of these men come up against another man who's trying to protect the woman, all of a sudden you'll see them uh, crumple like a deck of cards, and
mm.
that's what it's really about. They might seem scary, because they're hurting you, but at the end of the day, these are weak men, and if it came push to shove, they're not going to be out fighting a man. They're at home fighting with a woman.
That's that's powerful because yeah, that's normally how a lot of that abuse goes, right? Where and that's why I'm thinking that, well, not thinking, that's why I'm glad that you came on and you were willing to tell your story because when it comes down to abuse and people dealing with abuse, I think the end result is the trauma, but how do we release this trauma? Because at some point, for some people, they've been able, like yourself, get out of it, and then
Mhm.
there are others who wasn't so lucky, right? Um, that 17th time turned to that 18th time, and that was the last time, right? So we know that because there's plenty of stories of that, right? And that's from the male and female side. It's not just one or the other, right? There's a lot of men who are not here no more because of the possession of the woman that he picked as well, too. Though that's not a gender-based mentality. That's a personal mentality that goes based on no matter what the gender is. You
Well, I
know,
think it can even be harder for men to leave because they're embarrassed.
well,
They
yeah, I think for
they
men
don't
though,
know how
it's
to tell someone that a woman is hurting them, you know?
yeah, yeah, they won't tell that part, but see the difference in that, man. Um, how can I put this? Whenever they in a position where a woman is controlling like that, normally it comes down to sometimes it's mainly like lifestyle,
Mm,
right? Because really angry women that are abusive to a man, that man has some type of substance abuse that
mm.
I've noticed. Just like growing up, like whenever there were women that were really abusive to the man, he was either alcoholic or he was something that he wasn't just that. And then if he was really a super nice guy who was just being taken advantage of or whatever, 9 times out of 10, uh, he didn't have other people in his life.
Sure.
You get what I'm saying? That like other women or other people in his life that would pay attention to anything like that, right? So it's those kind of rare instances. But when it come down to y'all, these men be all kind of different type of scenarios. They be rich, they be broke, and they
Oh,
still
yeah.
abusive.
Yeah.
Right? It don't matter. They could be popular and they still
Yeah.
abusive. Like they could have mad women out here and they still abusive to the person that they claim is the one that they have in the tuck. Like it's crazy out here how that part when it come to y'all that y'all deal with that because most men like that's why I tell a lot of women when you got a person in your life that doesn't hound you, that don't check for you all the time, that allows you to have your own life and do your own thing, support your goals, you better do everything you can. Appreciate that, man, because I'm
Mhm.
telling you, men, there are not a lot of men out here like that. Women want, sometimes it's like, I noticed this too, like they want you to be available for them every time that they want you to be available for them. And then they're gonna find somebody that's always gonna be available. And then next thing you know, you ain't gonna be available because they're gonna be controlling you because That's the thing, right? And you said it yourself. It's the isolation part. At first, everything is cool, but then it's like, nah, you don't need to go with them no more. Now you don't need to hang with you. You don't need to be around your parents. Like, yo, that's the ultimate sign that you need to get out the way. When
Right.
when a person tell you can't be around the people who brought you here, now you got to find something else to do with your time at that point.
Yeah.
Like we can't even like I don't even understand. That's why I say for certain people, I listen. I respect you. I am so glad you're able to tell your story and go through certain things. But there are certain people who God wouldn't allow me to be their friend because they would hear certain things like that,
Sure.
right? Like he said, what? All right, and you going where?
Right.
You get what I'm saying? Because then it's not tied to another man outside just trying to use your vulnerability to get some of your stuff too as well. Because that's another thing women got to be careful of, right? They're having men around who waiting on a vulnerable time just to get in, because
Oh,
they
sure.
still be attracted, right? So you guys have a lot to deal with when it comes down to that. But genuine men, they always show protection before they show lust. Just
Yes.
that's
Yes, that's very true. That's
and
very
and that's a gem. And I try to tell women, certain things on this platform. I don't know if they get it or not, but that's a gem. He will always show protection before he show lust. That's how you could tell the difference. And I might not should have said that because now there's gonna be some lame dudes out there using that now. Probably they drink.
Yeah. Right.
I might have said that. I might have should have said that a
Yeah.
little more private,
So
but
you're
you
just giving
can't.
us
Yeah.
rules now?
Ah, man, but still, at the end of the day, I feel like, those people who are not afraid to tell their story and what they've been through are blessings. They're angels in disguise. They don't even know it. And I hope that they understand that, you know, just allowing other people to know that there are other people that are going through similar situations is a blessing too as well. Right? Because you're not alone. Because most of us that in situations that we deal with family as our main trauma, we always feel like we're alone. Because you
Yeah.
run away from home, you're by yourself.
Yeah. Yep.
So look, before we get out of here, we want people to know more about your podcast, how to have more conversations with you. We want to make sure that people understand that you are a platform or you have a platform that is a safe space for them to actually try to get into ideas to release their trauma because some of them people may need to join your episodes that you having and we start turning these into visuals, right? Into short
Mhm.
skits or scenes or whatever you need to do in order to really drive it in home, right? Because some of these
Mhm.
people got some stories they can add to and probably make that series, really, really touch home. And I hope men too. Are you open to speaking to men? Because I
Oh,
know
of course, I'm
sometimes
open to speak to anybody.
you really you are
Mhm.
all right. Bet. So I hope men that are dealing with trauma because childhood trauma is affecting everybody. It doesn't matter how old you are. You know what I'm saying? People are dealing with childhood trauma. The fact that, my guest Kimberly Love was able to take her childhood trauma and her passion at the same time and convert that into a place where she was able to release and move forward and be able to deal with life in a whole new perspective. I think all of us got to find a way, or all of you guys too as well, find a way to release that trauma versus releasing your reality. So before we get out of here, how can people get in contact with you? How can they find you and link up with you or check out your podcast?
My socials are all at the real Kimberly Love. So you're welcome to message me there. Obviously, there will be posts involved about the upcoming release of the podcast. My website is kimmylove.com. That's KIMMILOVE.com. So, of course, you can find any updates or information there as well. And all my books are available on Amazon.
Facts. So all of you guys out there, just remember, you're not the only one. Now, I may not can't speak specifically to whatever you're going through, and whatever you're going through, I know you may feel like it's just you. Trust me, it's not. You're not. And if you ever needed a place or a soundboard to get that off, y'all know what to do. Y'all can contact me. We can, have a conversation about what you want to talk about, and we can get you on. We'll get you on, right? And outside of that, you have my guests like Kimberly Love, and there's other guests that I've had on that have platforms that are open for you to be able to discuss these things. Now you got to remember, when we open our platforms to you guys to tell these type of stories, these are not the type of stories that go viral, right? These are not the type of stories that sensationalize what is going on in pop culture in order for you to get a lot of views. Remember, when we do things and we put these things out, these are things that the algorithm fights against, because this is actually what helps people and not keep them distracted. Right. So we know that when these clips drop and all these other things, it's up to you guys to make sure that y'all share this content and y'all get it out there to as many people as possible, because we know that the algorithm doesn't work alongside of people who have a message. Right. So thank you so much for jumping on, Kimberly Love. I so appreciate you for not being afraid to tell your story. And, like I said, in this world, we are meant to believe that skin color puts a person in a privileged position, or because a person looks a certain way, that they had a life that was so easy and so laid out. And then when you come on my platform, you understand from all walks of life that we all dealing with the same type of scenarios, irregardless of what our skin color represents. So the fact that we have hate in this country based on skin color is bananas still.
So
But
true.
anyway, I don't want to get back into that because we'll have another show.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
I
I
bet.
appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, no doubt. And so to all of y'all that's watched tonight, thank y'all. Y'all know the vibes. Each and every Tuesday, I'm here and we chopping it up with some of the world's most interesting people. And for those of y'all that will watch the playback, thank y'all so much. Make sure if you have any type of traumas, childhood traumas, or dealing with any of the things that me and my guest talked about tonight, remember my guest said she's open to have these conversations with y'all. She gave out all her socials. For those of y'all, just rewind it, pause it. Y'all know what to do. And y'all can get everything that y'all need to be able to get in contact with her and make that shape. But other than that, until next week, y'all know the vibes. Hold it down out there. And remember, if you don't believe in yourself, nobody else will. So until next